Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando Leduc, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Spaghetti on the Wall, back with another one. Jennifer Hill is in the house. How are you?
Armando, I'm amazing. So much magic. I had the funniest experience of my life about an hour ago. I couldn't move my head for like 2 weeks ago. And so I had an osteopath that could only see me today, like treats Guns N' Roses and like top footballers. He's like, I can see you at this time. And a half hour goes by, he's not here. And I'm like, shoot, I have back-to-back calls. And I'd already canceled on this one call 2 weeks before when I was immobilized because of this. So I had to take my call 2 hours ago, face down while the osteopath, and it wound up being one of the best business calls of my life. I'm like, you'll have to forgive me. I was completely immobile last time and canceled, didn't want to cancel again. And it was hilarious because it was the most unassuming, funniest business call I've ever had that we totally dropped in. And they're like, what do? You're face down while you're getting worked on, lasers and ultrasounds and all the things. So that's my day. How's yours?
Awesome. I went to the ENT and they cleaned my ears out, so I'm good. I can hear.
Nice. I think we all could use a little bit better, clearer hearing, both metaphorically and physically.
I agree with you. I was so I'm a student of improv. I've done
improv
since 2005. Done improv with the Upright Citizens Brigade and Comedy Sports and all of these different programs. And that's one of the biggest things in improv is that listening is key. If you can't build a story together. You can't build, anything together if you're not listening, right? Because I'm going to take what you say. We're going to build it.
I can't hear you. What?
What was that? I don't know what you're saying right now. I guess maybe that's why I love podcasting so much is because I'm like, okay, how am I taking this concept and moving it into the next phase of the story, right? Because we're telling a story every time we're on a podcast or we're doing an interview, and it's all story based, right? So that people can get what they want out of this. But I had the pleasure of meeting you through a guy, Jess Larson, who I met in Cabo at a Flow Mastermind. And how it came about was I was talking to him and I was like, why isn't there an AI that can connect people at this mastermind or conferences in general? They could take all of the information from the people that are going to attend and then like matchmake in a like speed dating sort of way where it's all like, so that they're meeting the people who they want to meet with immediately. And he was like, well, then you got to talk to Jennifer. It already exists. And I was like, of course it does. Like, of course it does. It's an amazing idea. Right. And you guys, my idea with it was like right here. And you guys are just like live it up here with it, which is really, really awesome. So I want to get into that. But before we get into all of that, just give me like a 2-minute version of how you had that epiphany and how you got to that point and why you started that particular business and concept.
Thank you, Armando. Yes. So shout out to our friend Charles Bird. I was actually at his last Flow Mastermind. We used our software OptiMatch, and I met 2 new best friends out of his event based on our own software matching us with people. It's amazing. I love it. So a couple of years ago, I sold my first company in 2018. I was a bit of a dick when I started building it, so I am a recovering asshole. We should probably get that out of the way. You'll find stuff about me online. Yes, what you read is true, and no, I'm not that person anymore. At least I'm trying not to be, but the asshole still does rear her ugly head. But most of the time, we keep her buried in the basement so she can't come out and play. So people ask why human connection, and it was out of survival, Armando. I hated myself so much. I couldn't look in the mirror without being a judgy bunny and being like, you suck, this isn't right, that isn't right. So I sold my first company, and thank God I've had a sixth sense of like who matches with whom. And I had this running algo in my head all this time I was building and exiting the last company. And my business coach, who helped me not to be a dick, he was one of the instrumental people in that evolution of my soul, helps me sell the company and says, Jen, why don't we create an algorithm based on your intuition? Why don't we take the tens of thousands of people you worked with in the recruiting world and selling that company, working with law firms, accountants, et cetera, and why don't we bootstrap that knowledge and turn it into a scalable SaaS algorithm and tools to help humanity. And I said, well, crap, that sounds pretty cool. Can we do that? I'm not a tech person. I'd only built a services company. So thank you to Julian Adler, my amazing co-founder, who came up with the really complex math. He's a software engineer, mathematical genius. And as you do, you literally start with like a clean slate. You start with nothing. It's like, well, how do you even begin to get what's in here into a mathematical formula? So it took us about 8 months of just trying to pull it straight out of my head and figuring out using Julian's behavioral knowledge. And then another 1.5 years of testing it. Obviously, data, the algorithms need data. They need data sets to test it. So we began testing it with patient-therapist matching and matching people with coaches, got to 700 initial respondents, 100 therapists and coaches, 144 completed sessions, and an 87% satisfaction rate. And we're like, wow. And funny enough, the first time we thought we would just build out this marketplace originally of the coaches and therapists, though I'll always remember pitching this guy, Charlie O'Donnell, summer, it was July of 2022. And I'm pitching and I'm telling him about this marketplace. He's like, I don't give a shit about your stupid marketplace. He's like, but if you're as good as you say you are at matching, you need to make this available for all of humanity. And there was a CEO I was mentoring at the time who was a developer who said, Jen, I'll build this for you at cost. You've been such an instrumental mentor to me as a CEO. Why don't I just build it for you at cost? Now, that was the first bill. And here we are 3 years later, many, tens of thousands, $100,000+ but here we are and we built it. So
incredible. And so let's talk about the methodology behind it and the psychology of it a little bit, because I know there's several ways you can match people, right? I guess assessments could be one, DISC, Colby, Working Genius, right? Then you have, and I know we had a conversation about motivational factors. Mm. And so, how are you assessing and creating, giving the AI the right information in order for it to match properly, right? Are you taking from the internet? Are you giving them, an assessment ahead of time?
So I love this because anybody can try it. You can go right now. It's so often when I get off calls with people, they immediately jump on. And the guy I dropped in with, like while I was getting the osteo work, he and I talked like we were new best friends, and he just answered the matching algo and we were a perfect match. So you answer the questions at om.app/survey. So that's our public facing free one that's not, run by any of our clients, and anybody can test it. And voila, you get emailed a report of how you're motivated, what your primary and secondary motivators are, as well as questions and insightful things to consider about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your potential challenges? And what we've really found differentiates us from everything else is, number one, most of Colby and DISC and all of those things were not designed to match. Those were meant as personality profiling tools. We did not mean to be a personality profiling tool, and we're not. We're a motivational analysis tool. So what happened was, one, if you look at, many of the things out there like Myers-Briggs, et cetera, they're measuring your personality and they'll tell you that. Or in Colby's case, they're measuring your intrinsic motivators. We're taking a snapshot of your motivators in time because, of course, we're fluid as humans, right? Our motivators are going to evolve and devolve as we go through breakups, change jobs, et cetera. Most of the time, in about 80+% of cases that we've come across, your primary motivator remains consistent. I've taken our own algorithm 14 times over the 4 years since we built it. And even I can't fake the system because the math is so complex on the back end of it. And I still test within 5 points of the primary motivator every time. Like my numbers are always within 3 to 5 points. So we've created the science of motivation. And what we found is for decades and maybe even longer than that, people have tried to match people based on, oh, what's your Myers-Briggs? What's mine? What's your Colby? What's mine? Number one, those weren't designed for matching. Number two, we wound up doing the profiling side, the motivating profile side, just because people wanted it. We're like, we don't care about that. We just want to be your best matchmakers. But then, of course, we brought in experts to help us with the profiling tool aspect of it. And so number three is that we found that your personality is not a determiner of how psychologically safe and intimate you're going to be able to go deep with somebody. I'll give you a great example. My co-founder, Julian, if you look at he and I, we are completely the antithesis of one another. I'm spiritual business Barbie. He's hipster Santa Claus. Like he travels around the world in a motorhome. I'm as bougie as they come, love like 5-star hotels and Michelin star restaurants. Personality-wise, antithesis of one another. However, if you look at our OptiMatch overlay, or what we would consider an OptiMatch, except for one area, he and I have 0 to 5 points variability. We share one score that's exactly identical. we have two scores that are within 4 to 5 points of each other. And we have one area, which this gives us the healthy friction in the company. His primary motivator is information, or what we call Apple. Mine is lychee, or what we call lychee, which is achievement. And so that's where we have healthy tension. He is 7 points higher than me in Apple and information. I'm 5 points higher than him in achievement. And because of that, I'm the typical CEO going out, build faster, work harder. And he's like, let's go deep. We have to build the algorithm perfectly, you know? So in that way, there's healthy tension, despite the fact that we share no common personality traits. We've worked together on and off for 13 years.
Interesting. And so you guys created this based on things that you heard, or?
It was funny, if I'm being totally frank, years ago, like 20 years ago, I was new to the recruiting field. So that was the first company I built and exited. And I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand others. So I was always looking for things. And there was something about gems many, many years ago that I read one article once. What's funny is I've never even tried DISC, though I hear of what we do is tangential in some ways, but still different from DISC. So I read this thing about emerald, ruby, sapphire, pearls. And so what I used to do in my old business is, long before we had an existing like an algorithm you could actually apply, what I would do is I would calculate in my head, and I could accurately predict. I had one of the highest conversion rates in recruiting that you could ever get, because I could meet person A and meet person B and immediately tell you with the sixth sense who is going to get along with who. But I would calculate all this data in my head. Are they a primary this? Are they a primary that? How do I calculate this? Never in a million years did I think we'd create a software around it. And then over the 15, 20 years I spent in recruiting, I started to teach the team, here's how you can cold read. Here's how this person is going to show up if they're motivated by information versus fun versus this. Here's how you onboard that person. How you onboard somebody motivated by information is you go really deep, give them a lot of information. You onboard somebody like me, completely opposite. If you gave me a ton of paperwork, I'd quit the job day one. Instead, you would give me 3 bullet points, send me to the wolves, and hope for the best. You get somebody motivated by fun, you better be sending that person out to drinks. I talked to a friend of mine, was the prior CHO of, I think it was Gucci, and she's like, Jen, in 20 years of doing human resources for some of the top brands and companies in the world, she said the number one reason people don't work out in their careers is because when they get onboarded, something happens that's off, and everybody onboards everybody the same way. So when I was doing this at my old company, which is why we got sold and why we were so sticky, is we would be able to predict how to onboard the person. We would coach the clients, we would consult with them, and that's why we had such high retention, productivity, and efficiency rates in the people we placed.
You're talking about recruiters.
That's when I was in recruiting. So what happened was I built this company in the recruiting space. I worked with probably the largest law firms in the world, some big, children's hospital and real estate companies and things like that for decades. And in doing so, I bootstrapped everything. I'm autistic, so my brain calculates and holds all this data in my head and is constantly processing it. I relate very deeply to Sherlock Holmes when Benedict Cumberbatch says that he has a mind palace in his head. That's how it feels like to live inside my head, is everything has rows and rows of columns and, filing cabinets of where they're stored. So then when Julian said, let's synthesize this and take the, 15, 20 years you've had in recruiting and turn this into a scalable SaaS algorithm, that's what we based it on. And then, of course, we've evolved. We brought in psychiatrists. Dr. Marta Shea-Cedar out of Columbia University has been instrumental. Another one of our advisors passed away. Dr. Mark Golston was one of the most prominent psychiatrists. And here's my favorite story. So Mark passed away about 1.5 years ago, and Mark was one of our advisors. And about a month or two into his advising, we were actually going to do an interview. He was doing a series called I'm Dying to Tell You. He knew he had cancer, and he was doing, it's a beautiful series if you ever get a chance to see it on YouTube. So we're on a call one day, and we're about to do a podcast, and he's, going through chemo, and he said, my friend, I love you. I can't do the interview today. Can we just focus on your company? I just want to be of service. And I said, of course, Mark, I love you. What can I do? And he said, well, I haven't answered your matching questions. Now, this man, Mark Golston, saved my life. In 2018, I sold my company, went through divorce, and he was the first one to diagnose me as being on the spectrum. So go through all of this. And this man was like the father you wished you had. Like, I've never trusted somebody. I'd never found a therapist that worked for me. So Mark starts answering the matching questions, and I'm going, oh, crap. What if I'm wrong? What if all the data is wrong? And back when we were early in our testing, we had maybe 1,000 people in the system, and it used to send an email saying, these are the top 3 matches for this person. Kid you not, Armando. Mark finishes the thing. The email comes through to my email. Mark's number 3 match is Jennifer Cahill. And he's like, he was one of Marshall Goldsmith's top 100 coaches. He's like, you're going to change the world with this.
That's amazing. So the people that are hiring or the people that are using your software right now are mastermind organizers, conferences.
We're getting used. That's been our biggest opportunity is everybody wants to use it. We have like waiting list of like event producers or like, I want to use this for like 100, 1,000, 10,000 person events. We haven't even built that functionality yet. People are begging us to do it in dating. The main use cases of where we get used now is like Charles's Flow. We got brought to Mind Valley. Actually, one of my new dear friends was one of my top 5 matches at a Mind Valley event that we sent out, and she's flown out to Lisbon twice and now might move here. It's like, but she was one of my best matches at Mind Valley. Necker Island, we've been used 4 times on Necker. So we do get used in a lot of mastermind settings, groups of CEOs, 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000. That is one of our big use cases. And one of my favorites is I love going into companies coming from the recruiting background and doing analysis of leadership teams. So we've done it for 10 people, 10 person startups and 500 person companies. And it's exactly what you would expect. Google did a really cool study on this, Armando, in 2012. In 2012, Google did something called Project Aristotle. Have you heard of it before? So Google set out to study 38,000 employees, and I think it was 180 teams to see what is the number one factor in team success. Wouldn't we all like to know that, right? Turns out they were shocked. They thought it was people who lived in the same area, went out for drinks. No, the number one factor in team success, psychological safety. So what we found in studying the science of motivation, which is why we just opened a nonprofit to do even more rigorous scientific studies on this to make it available for all of humanity, is we have a theory of a science of motivation that's never been studied before, that what if the missing link, so to speak, is motivation? And what if we can predict who you're going to fall in love with, who you're going to be friends with, who your best therapist is, who your best business partners are? We think we've unlocked the code to human connection.
That's phenomenal. Let's talk about it specifically for use case scenario. I want to talk about Flow and how you guys used it for the conference specifically. So I'm guessing you had everybody run through before they came.
Yeah.
Everybody that's coming would go to give me the website one more time.
So ours, the public one, is om.app/survey. That when we're working with a client like Charles or somebody like that, then we create a private domain for them that's a white label to look like their website. So it has their logo, et cetera. So you might not even know it's OptiMatch, for example, if one of our clients is using it. So we white label it to people. So in Charles's case, the 48, I think it was, respondents went through. And then you go through and then it told you and it predicts who your top 5 to 10 matches are depending on the size of the group. Like in Mind Valley's case, when they had 200 people, they had us predict the top 5 matches. We've had other groups that want to use all 10, some that want to use 3. So it really depends on who the person is putting on the event. And 2 of my dear friends who are business collaborators now, Genevieve and Sebastian, were my matches at Charles's event. And that came out of like, hey, you're one of my matches. Let's drop in.
So they knew when they got there.
They were given their list. Most of the time when we're working with clients, everybody does a little differently. 1 or 2 times at Necker, we did it post-event, and it was hilarious because when we did it post-event, not my favorite way to do it, but everybody at Necker is like, that was my favorite person. I hung out the whole time with them at Necker. So that happens a lot too, and it just further validates it. And we've also reverse-proofed the algorithm on several occasions.
That's awesome. So then they get there, they get the printout. Does the printout tell you what things that you should be connecting on?
We haven't added that level. This is like early beta. This is like layer 1, and we've had so much success. And my business partner has already written the next level of the algorithm. So in Mind Valley's case, I think they sent out an email. In Charles's case, because it was only like 48 people, I think we sent out and gave people a printed list when they checked in. So it really depends on the event producer's ideal scenario. And the thing is, what we found, and I've even studied this in a business school. I was invited earlier this year to speak in a business school and teach this to students, and it was so much fun. 70 students in this business class. We had them answer the matching questions, and of course, not all of them did, but the 50 who did, we put them in groups of 3 to 4 based on their motivators. Immediate intimacy. That's what we're talking about. Immediate psychological safety, irrespective of anything else. Like you just go, you're my new best friend. Like, hey, I just want to spend time with you. And the funny thing about that study was, we had 50 students say who answered it, but then we had 20 who didn't because they just didn't get around to it. So we just kind of arbitrarily matched them based on nothing. And so in that case, they didn't have the same level of affinity. So that's what we're saying, is that even though, yes, there are going to be ways that we're already in talks with the developers of refining it, of adding different things like we have so many, we have like a waiting list of things people want to see and do with it. But as much as there are those nuances we're going to add, even just with the bare bones of what we've been doing now, it's a really good predictor of who you're going to feel like, hey, you're my person. Like that's it. It's like that, hey, let's become best friends sort of feeling.
Talk to me about psychological safety, because the third time you said it.
What people don't realize is, have you ever had that experience where you feel like you're almost a turtle going in your shell? You're talking to somebody and you feel like they just can't hear you, or you feel like you just shut down, like you're the turtle and your little head goes back in your shell. That's a lack of psychological safety. And in business, in friendships, in romantic relationships, this is where you see conflict. This is where you see accidental adversarial relationships. When you feel psychologically safe, you feel seen, you feel known, you feel heard, you feel the sense of belonging, and it directly correlates with this loneliness epidemic, Armando, that we're seeing around the world. You survey, it was something like 25, almost 27% of people surveyed in the last 2 years expressed feeling very or fairly lonely a lot of the time. And this is where psychological safety comes in. And I went through this my whole life. That's why we developed this, is, out of the deep desire to feel safe and known and belong. So many of us go our whole lives, Armando. We never find a business partner, a leader, a romantic partner, a friend, or somebody who we feel sees us. We always are just kind of putting on these facades and bravados and showing up at work differently than we're showing up with our kids, than we're showing up with our friends. And it's all these different masks. But what if you could just unmask and be yourself and find your tribe?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fun concept. How do you, how do you stop from, I guess, doing that? You're in school, right? And you go to school and you are put into this environment that, like, it's kind of throwing all of these personalities together. And I think based on that, you sort of developed a personality plus, what happens at home. And so I guess we probably put a mask on pretty early on,
Yeah, that's where somebody was asking me on another interview I was doing lately of what's the vision? And the vision is, it's 3 parts: self, others, and purpose. I call this the golden triangle of connection. The reason this is free for the public, om.app/survey, is we give you a report. If you know nothing, if you're sitting here scratching your head and saying, what are my motivators? I have no idea. Go find out for free. So step 1, understand yourself. The minute you have that self-knowledge, then you can choose this is how I'm motivated. Oh, is this what I'm committed to? A couple of years back, I was working with a CEO of a tech company, and he wasn't committed to that. Like, he was noticing he had analysis paralysis. So his Apple, or motivation for information, was 9 points above average. And his motivation for achievement was like 2 points above average. And he wanted to flip those. He wanted to get his motivation for information down so he could be more decisive and be a better leader. He wanted to get his motivation for achievement up so that way he could move quicker and be more agile. So after about 6 months of working together, we retested him, and it was exactly what he said, like 2 points down on information, 2 points up on achievement, and he started being more productive in his company. So
how are you changing? Is that changing the person?
It's evolving and devolving motivators. We're human beings. We're not static. Come on, Armando. We're not static. We're not gonna, be the same person for the rest of our lives unless you're locked in a cage and never engage with another human being.
Sure.
So step 1 is understand, how are you motivated? Step 2, ask yourself, is that what you're committed to? I met a woman one time, she got the lowest score we ever got on fun. She was like a level 2 fun. And she's like, I hate fun. Fun is not of interest to me. And I hate people who like fun. And I'm like, you must be so much fun to work with, right? Like, but she was committed. Like, having a 2 on a scale of 0 to 41 of fun was like, she was committed to that. So it wasn't something she wanted to work on. So that's the beautiful thing. I was a jerk. I was an asshole for 25, 30 plus years of my life, right? I wasn't committed to that. So did I evolve and devolve? Like, I bet long before I had this software and technology and algorithm to be able to measure it, if I were a betting woman and I were to bet, I would have bet I was even more out of balance, than I am now. But because I spend 2 hours a day in meditation, reflection, etc., I can come across more even keeled rather than letting my need to dominate and achieve. I used to just bulldoze people back in the day. So now I've got my lychee. Most of the time I can average around 27, which is 7 points above average. But sometimes I still inch up to like 32. But I'm trying to avoid getting to where I used to be, which was like a 39. My way or the highway, you do what I say.
So I was going to ask you a little bit about that if you're comfortable with it. What do you mean by you were an asshole before? What is that? Give me the story behind that.
Look out for the book one day, The Recovering Asshole. So I'm already in talks with people about writing it and doing it. I've written some of it. Essentially, I didn't realize I was a jerk. This goes back to the self. This is why step one is understanding the self. You're never going to be able to have the deep intimacy with others until you first understand yourself. Then once you have that, you can connect with others. Then you can connect to your purpose. So in my case, I hated myself. I never felt like I belonged. I tried therapists. I could never find a therapist who helped see or hear me. I would have friends, but I always felt weird or different or strange. I was called weird and different and strange because my brain just operated differently. I went to college when I was 16 years old, and my brain, I'm autistic now, I know that, but I didn't know that till I was like 37, 38 years old, right? So here I was, and I just felt like this outcast and outsider. Now, because of that, that people often are like, were you really an asshole? I'll give you an example. In my late 20s, I'm building my first company. I'd had a lot of success in the first company I worked with because I can be a lone wolf and I could just produce. I was what they would call a rainmaker. I could bring in $1 million in business, for a company. So when I left the first and real only company I worked for to build my own thing, everybody knew I was a rainmaker, and they're like, I want to bet on that horse. So they all start to offer to come work with me. Problem was, I didn't know how to manage myself, and I certainly did not know how to manage other people. So I tried the same way I managed myself, which was very pressurizing and punitive. And so the team starts to come work for me. And I remember one time, Armando, please forgive me, everybody out there, but I want to be transparent because, we all have a little bit of an asshole in us. It just depends on how much you're letting the world see. And here I was, and I once sent an email to the team at maybe I was 28, 29 years old, all caps, all in the subject line. Are you all a bunch of effing morons? Why are you not working harder, faster, smarter? I made Devil Wears Prada look like a pussycat. I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. To all prior team members, I think I've reached out to you individually, but please know I'm trying to make reprimands for it.
What was the response to that?
Not great, going to be honest, not great. But people, again, I had a lot of business. I had a huge book of business. And you see this happen a lot with rainmakers. It's like you can produce and then people need your rainmakers because they're bringing in so much revenue. And people put up with people who are jerks. But then I started meditating, and it was actually one of our team members who introduced me to transcendental meditation. So I've been meditating now every day for 13 years. Life-changing. Started studying Kabbalah. Life-changing. I now have a list of 40 things I do every day to keep the asshole hidden in the basement.
Wow. No, that's awesome. I too am a recovering asshole.
Yay! That's why we're friends.
It's true. Same deal. My passwords for a long time were "Don't hire fucking morons."
Stop it! Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
No, those are my passwords. And I, it's like, dude, you weren't clear about what you wanted. You didn't know how to lead, and it wasn't the two-way street, right? But I could have figured it out better and an easier way to have those conversations. But yeah, like you, I would just be like, get the fuck out. What's wrong with you? Just super angry. I love that you shared that story. What a vulnerable story to tell.
Yeah, I just want to help people. There used to be a talk I would give to corporations and conferences called How to Deal with an Office Asshole. And I remember this is my favorite part with starting it. Did you know that 1 in every 3 people is an asshole? That means if you look to your left, and if you look to your right, and if you don't see an asshole sitting nearby, that asshole might be you, and you might not even know it, just like me. And then I launch into it, and then we get into there's 8 types of assholes, like the Machiavellian, the yeller, the gossip, the emotional vampire, and they have a whole quadrant of assholes that we break down.
Oh, wow. That's where can I see that?
I don't even know if they recorded it. God, I haven't given that talk. It just depends. Now I tend to give a talk called Cracking the Code of Human Connection. But if you guys want to hire me for how to deal with an office asshole, I'm sure, remind me. I can probably send you the talk. I'm sure I have it saved in prior talks.
I'd love to see that talk. How do people find you? I know you have the free site. It's OptiMatch.com, right?
Ohm.app, but I think we also own OptiMatch.com, and it might send to om.app, but it's just om.app is the OptiMatch site to make it easy for folks. You can also go to my personal website, Jennifer, K as in kite, Hill, HILL.com. You can subscribe for newsletter there, and I often give you special discounts, like Deepak Chopra is doing a private cruise through Antarctica, and because I know him and the person putting on, I gave everybody in my network $1,000 off for that. You'll find out about speaking that I'm doing and articles sometimes and things before they come out. And I also write a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn called Inspired Living Tools. So I get inspired by real life circumstances. I'll be coaching a client, consulting with somebody, and something will happen. And so some recent ones have been return on intimacy, relationship intelligence. Do you have it? And what is it? So I love just brainstorming like all the real life things that people are struggling with.
That's amazing. And so people can work with you in how many different ways?
Speaking. So I get hired and paid to speak around the world. I've already had 6 international trips this year. So online, in person. I love consulting. I'm on retainer with a company that has me come in every month and do trainings with their team. And it's just so much fun. I love it. I get to help them with, understanding themselves and one another better. I do one-on-one consultancy with CEOs. So you can find more about that at jenniferkhill.com. And then of course we have the OptiMatch, the subscription that you can sign up for there.
I love it so much. You're such a rock star. When I met you, I was like, wow, what a cool person. Immediately, like, I need to figure out what my motivators are, but I'm sure we're probably like right there.
This is it. And this is what I found, Armando, is like, no kidding. 100 out of 100 times when I drop in with somebody and it's like, hey, we're besties. Let's just drop in. Let's spend more time. Let's go out for drinks. Let's get on another call. 100 is a little bit much, but say 90 out of 100 times, because it is 90% accurate. I'm not going to say it's 100. In our testing, it's 87 to 90% accurate. I was doing an interview with somebody else. She's like, it's 93%. You nailed it for me. But I'm like, okay, we really have to be honest. It's 87 to 90% accurate, but 90 out of 100 times when somebody answers the matching questions and I felt deeply aligned, deep resonance, you're my new bestie, the person's an OptiMatch with me, literally. And one of my friends, this happened with John Lee. We met at a thing and he became obsessed. He's like, are you telling me this would have predicted that we were going to be friends? And da-da-da-da. And so therefore, so he now teaches it at all of his classes and everywhere he goes. That man has had 1,000 people answered in the last few months since we met because he just loves it.
I love it so much. I think it's a great concept. Loved meeting you. I'm glad I'm in your ecosystem now. So yeah. You guys check out Jennifer K. Hill on social media. If you guys are running a mastermind or a conference, hit her up if you're looking. And this works for recruiting as well, right?
Yeah, it works. That's where it was originally based on. It was inspired by the knowledge I gained from 20 years as a recruiter.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to be taking the test today, so I'll send you my results.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. And that was brought to you by Leduc Entertainment for all of your production needs, podcasts, social media. We got you. Keep listening, keep watching, and we'll see y'all next time.